Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I just wanted to say as a quick intro, I am here in the reptile basement. Behold all the enclosures. Behold my big reptile basement. I'm actually about to leave Ben, so I'm trying to film this really quick. But this is a video I haven't done in a while. It is a feeding my pets video, and I hope you guys enjoy it. A couple disclaimers. One, this is not a representation of their full diet. Two, I'm only feeding each of them one insect so that this video isn't 400 years long. And three, I'm going to do a voiceover of some updates, and if you have any other questions, you can leave them down below or check the description because I include information in there as well. And there's one more thing I have to say. If you would like to donate to help finish this space for the reptiles, behold, that light doesn't work, it needs to get replaced. If you want to help me finish this space for the reptiles, we're getting very close to being able to be building enclosures. All those enclosures back there, as you can see, there's 19 of them down here, I think, that are that need to be unboxed and put together. I mean, there's like a whole 20 something down here already. But if you want to contribute to the finishing of this project, I will leave instructions down below on how to get involved. But basically, if you donate or purchase anything from the Amazon wishlist or become a patron, your name will be going on this wall right here, which would be my filming wall, and it will have a list of all the names of people who've donated to help make this a reality. And one day the filming setup will be better than this. I'm so sorry that it's been so long since I've had a good filming setup, but I appreciate your patience as always, and I thank you for watching. Let's go ahead and get started. I forgot to include one other disclaimer in my intro, which is that many of my reptiles are disabled, specifically my leopard geckos. Some of the behaviors you'll see on screen are abnormal, and if you're curious, please ask me in the comments or check out my other videos. So let's start with some updates. I haven't done a Feeding My Pets Plus updates in a really long time, and because I have been working on the reptile room, I just haven't posted as much in general. I feel like there's a lot to catch up on. Have you met my bearded dragons, Chihiro and Damon? I welcomed them both home in the last year. I also welcomed home a leopard gecko named Cassana, an American toad named Gamatatsu, also known as Stu, two goldfish named Tony and Carmella, and a gecko named Helaena that I only had for a couple months. Let's talk about Chihiro and Damon first. They both have videos up about their backstories if you're interested. Chihiro has what is commonly referred to as muscular dystrophy for bearded dragons, though that's not actually what it is. It doesn't have an official diagnosis. It's likely a genetic condition she has had since birth. She and Damon, who has 3.5 legs, were both surrendered from a mass neglect breeder situation to Be Wild Rescue. I've had Chihiro about a year now and Damon for around 6 months. Chihiro has such a great temperament and loves to hunt for her own food, even if she's not the best at it. Damon is very chill, likes his naps, likes to be hand-fed, will just happily sit in a lap, will take his time hunting, he's a very chill dude. They are currently both the only bearded dragons here at Jessica's Animal Friends, and like I said, I will include links on the screen earlier in the video, and I'll include links down below to their videos introducing them so you can hear a bit more about their backstories, which are pretty crazy, pretty stressful, pretty sad, but I'm really happy that I was familiar with Chihiro from Be Wild. As soon as I saw her, I was like, that bearded dragon is mine. I was really happy that they gave me the opportunity to keep her, and because of her, I eventually did get Damon as well. I also want to talk about a gecko that has not been featured on this channel before. Her name is Cassana, and quite frankly, I was not sure if she would survive, so I didn't want to make a video about her until I was certain, and I then just figured it might be best to wait until I move and have the big reptile room done so I can show her in her built enclosure, because right now she's in a temporary enclosure and I don't love it. So I'll make a video about her in the future once her weight loss journey is complete, but I'll give you a bit of backstory here. I got an urgent message from a college student who was on spring break last year and needed to find immediate placement for their leopard gecko. I was told the gecko would refuse food and had been to the vet who recommended supplementing with critical care, if I remember correctly. When I saw this gecko in person, she was the most overweight leopard gecko I had ever seen, up until I saw Helaena, that is, but we'll talk about her later. A common illness very overweight leopard geckos have is hepatic lipidosis or fatty liver disease, and it can result in a gecko that goes off of food, which is very dangerous because then the gecko's liver has to process the fat as the gecko starts to utilize it, all the stored fat, because they're not eating. That process puts a lot of strain on the liver and it can be fatal, but luckily hepatic lipidosis is something that can be treated. It was imperative that Cassana be syringe fed to avoid this and to help her lose weight slowly and healthily over time. I syringe fed her for 4 months until she finally ate on her own again in July of 2024. We are still working on weight loss, but she's such a delightful gecko, and I'm happy I could step up to help her. She's currently in a minimalistic enclosure, but once we move in the next few months, she has a 36 by 18 by 18 with her name on it. In July, I welcomed home 2 small goldfish who are now not very small. Many of you probably don't know this, but before getting into reptiles, I kept rats. And you might know that because I also kept rats simultaneously as keeping reptiles. But before I did both of those, I kept fish. And honestly, I was not very good at it. Not that fish would die often, but that I didn't have an appreciation yet for the amount of work it takes to get a truly well-established tank. And I couldn't keep live plants alive. I just didn't decorate as well. I think 18-year-old Jessica got frustrated seeing all these gorgeous tanks and everybody with their their live planted aquariums, and I just wasn't having success, so I gave up. I was very impatient and I didn't give myself time to develop the skills that are necessary to have really gorgeous, well-established tanks. I thought why isn't this happening for me now? So I'm not any good at it, so I should just give it up. And that is the thinking of an 18-year-old, of course. So I gave away all my fish, including a trio of big goldfish who went to an experienced keeper with huge tanks and an outdoor pond. I then used that 75-gallon that my goldfish were in to get my second reptile ever, my bearded dragon Franklin, who I then had for 8 years to the day that I got him, and he had to be euthanized due to cancer, so that was really sad. But I wanted to get back into fish keeping because I have more experience now, more patience, and also I have more space now that I'm moving. It started with finding a vintage aquarium and setting it up, and I just so happened to find 2 small goldfish pictured in a Facebook Marketplace ad. Someone was selling a little 3-gallon aquarium and the fish were in it, and I was like, hey, are the fish for sale? And he said, well, if you want them, you can have them, but I'm just selling the tank. He was just planning to just put them in another tank with other fish, and he hadn't even gotten those fish. He bought the tank with those fish. So they've had a bunch of homes already. But I bought the tank, the little 3-gallon aquarium, just so that I could get the fish. I made a video about their backstory and of me setting up the tank, and I'll include those on the screen and in the description. They moved immediately into a 10-gallon out of that 3-gallon, and then recently, well, I guess in October now, it's been quite some time, but I moved them into a 45-gallon, which is the vintage aquarium I mentioned. Their forever tank will be considerably larger than 45 gallons, but since they're still growing, the 45 gallons is just fine. Having them has been such a delight. I have enjoyed every single minute of being a fish mom again. I also welcomed home Gamatatsu, an American toad that actually came from my friends Bree and Mike. I went to visit their reptile room last year and met Stu and immediately fell in love. When Bree mentioned they were rehoming Stu, I said, yes, please pick me, because I have wanted an American toad for years. But because I always wait for them to come across me in a situation of rehoming or rescue or adoption, I have not gotten one yet. Some months later, he was shipped to my home, and he makes me so happy. He has such a hilarious attitude. He's a fantastic eater, loves to take massive poops in the water as soon as I change it, which I just find hilarious, really. It's just telling of his personality, and I'm so grateful to have him. Now let's talk about Helaena. I was reached out to by a personal friend whose relative was moving quickly and could not take some of her animals with. One of them was a leopard gecko who I agreed to take in, but the moment I saw Helaena, I was shocked. She was the biggest leopard gecko I have ever seen, even bigger than Cassana. She had been fed 36 crickets a week, and when I got her, was rejecting food. I syringe fed her the same way I did with Cassana. She pooped regularly and was decently active for a gecko of her size. Unfortunately, after a couple months of the syringe feeding, I went to check on her and noticed she was bloated. And I kind of knew immediately that this was not good news, that this was the end. I checked her underside and noticed that she had internal bleeding. Her liver had likely ruptured, which can happen with hepatic lipidosis, and she bled internally and passed that night. It was extremely traumatic, as I had foolishly already grown attached to her, and it reminded me of the first leopard gecko that I ever lost, Sansa, who died the same way a couple months after I had gotten her from someone who had been feeding her almost exclusively waxworms. A week or two later, just before Christmas, the gargoyle gecko Genova, also called Rova, passed away. It was completely unexpected because her only behavioral change had been sitting on the ledge of the right side of the enclosure instead of the left side of the enclosure, which is the one that she favored. Genova/Rova was my ex's gecko that he left with me in 2021, but it's still upsetting. Since we're on the topic of loss, over the last year I've had to put to sleep Roz the leopard gecko, whose enigma syndrome was worsening over the years and had impacted her quality of life enough that I thought it was time, and my vet agreed. It was really sad, but I felt it was good to give her a nice, peaceful ending rather than letting her continue to suffer, because her condition would have only continued to get worse. And I also lost Viserion, the leopard gecko, who had cancerous tumors because he was a lemon frost. The biggest loss this year was my Crested gecko, who passed away 10 years and 10 days to the day that I welcomed her home on June 1st, 2014. She was almost 12 years old. She gave me no signs whatsoever. In fact, I have a video of her, the last video I took of her, where I was spraying her enclosure and she had popped her head out of her cork round to drink the water droplets off the side. She did lay eggs routinely every year, even though I didn't breed her. It's just a choice that she made. And I do know that that impacts the length that reptiles live. I don't know if that was what caused it, but unfortunately, losing my first reptile, that was really hard. It was especially challenging because she passed when I was at Ben's house working on the reptile basement. I came home to feed all of them and noticed her at the bottom of her tank, having had passed away. And it was just, not that I don't think there would have been anything I could have done differently, but for it to happen when I wasn't there, I think just made it worse. And as for the last unfortunate update, Tyrion is still alive. You actually saw him on screen, but he will be euthanized in the near future. After a few recent vet visits and different tests, my vet and I have determined that Tyrion is experiencing fluid accumulation in his entire body due to organ failure. We suspect due to his congenital physical differences, he likely has internal ones as well, and now we are seeing the effects of that. He's not in any noticeable pain. He's still eating like a champ. He eats every single time I offer him food, but he is losing weight, and it was hard for us to notice at first due to the fluid accumulation because he wasn't actually losing weight. He was like a gram or two bigger each time I took him to the vet, but if we account for the fluid, internally he is losing weight. What'll probably happen is when we noticed quality of life beginning to decrease, if he's not eating, if he's not passing bowel movements, if he stops moving, if it looks like he's having trouble breathing, I'll bring him to the vet. He will be humanely euthanized, and then we'll do a necropsy to see what organ exactly is causing the issue. We did talk about here are diagnostic options, but we don't know if he would survive a blood draw. We don't know if it would be ethical to do that to him if the outcome really would just be it's still organ failure and there's still no solution for it. So I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. But that is the unfortunate news I have to deliver about Tyrion. But everything else, there's no more unfortunate news. And it might seem like a lot, but it's been over a whole year. As for some personal updates, I'm tired. It has not been easy to build a reptile room, care for almost 80 animals, renovate a house, maintain relationships, work, and also deal with chronic health issues that I've had for the past 2.5 years, not to mention the state of my country and how this administration's policies are going to impact the reptile sanctuary that I've been trying to prepare for. But this is my dream. I know it takes a monumental effort to make dreams a reality, so I don't mind that it's a lot of work. I am just saying I am tired. I look forward to this room being completed so I can get back to making long-form content here for you guys, and also just getting back to being in a normal schedule, a normal routine, not going back and forth, because right now I'm living in Indiana, an hour and 15 minutes away from the house that I'm renovating. And so it's I'm just kind of whipping back and forth every single week for almost 3 years now. I also received a diagnosis today that I don't think I'm ready to share yet, but it does kind of explain the chronic health issues I've had the last few years. And so yeah, sometime soon I'll share that. But I just wanted to thank you guys, as always, for your patience when it comes to me making content. and I appreciate your support always. The reptile room will be done this year, so if you can just hang in there with me, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Friendly reminder once more. Jackie, you're not supposed to be down here. Hey, baby. Friendly reminder once more that this wall, you can have your name on it if you donate, and all the instructions for how to do that are down below. Please like, subscribe, all the good stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.